Ziggy's bed. That's Ziggy's bed. Okay? Ziggy brought a few beds with him for boarding, and Kiera has kind of, what would be the word, confiscated one of his beds and likes to sit on it as a pallet. So, and Ziggy's been fine with that. He has, like I said, several beds here, so he has other spots, and actually this couch or this chair have been two of his favorite spots most of the time. I'll probably just do mostly commentating right now. I don't know if I'll catch anything interesting, but there were two things that I was going to mention about kids and dogs. The first was generally speaking, with kids and dogs, it's as much kind of controlling and teaching the kids as it is the dogs. Definitely there is a need for training on both ends. Dogs have been domesticated for so long. I think that we tend to have a very high expectation level of them. And maybe even there's a slight lack of knowledge about how to properly work with kids and dogs as well. But as far as the fact that they've been domesticated for so long and we have high expectation levels, I think that as owners we often forget that dogs are still dogs, and they work based off of a different set of rules, especially a different kind of body language than people do. And so it's common to kind of have a dog that might be tolerant and be like, oh, that almost expect it, but maybe even get a little bit oh gosh, what's the word, not diligent, and kind of think that oh, he's been so patient, so he's always going to be patient, or he should be patient, and so you see kids kind of climbing around on a dog, and maybe it's a dog that is super patient, but every dog, every person as well has a limit, and so I believe very strongly in teaching the kids to kind of obviously have a level of understanding, and teach them a level of understanding as far as what's over the line for a dog. And in the first video you saw I had to correct Kiera from getting in Ziggy's face a little too much, and she was trying to hug, which is a very human loving response, but hugs are not something that dogs readily accept or readily like. While there are some dogs that are a little bit more accepting of that type of interaction, generally speaking, hugging a dog is just not something that dogs want to do. That's not the way they interact. And is actually a little bit imposing and maybe even fear-invoking when a person hugs a dog. And also the face-to-face contact is the same. A stiff face-to-face contact in the dog world would mean challenge or a potential threat. Ziggy keeps turning away from the video there. He's chewing on a tennis ball. So I would tell her, not to hug him, not to get in his face too much, and I had to be right there, and then I had to kind of show her, oh, he doesn't want to hug, but maybe you can pet him, and that's something that, Kiera's too. She's been around dogs since she was an infant. Dogs that come into the house, obviously dogs that I know are going to be generally okay with kids, and still, as you saw in the previous video, it takes a lot of interaction and a lot of, definitely, any kid and dog, even my existing dogs in the household, I always am very watchful when Kiera is hanging out with them. I have two dogs. I have a border collie and a pit bull, and actually my pit bull which genetically this is how they were bred. She's wonderful with the family and with the kids, and so she doesn't mind. Yeah, that's Ziggy's bed, but you're borrowing it? Are you borrowing Ziggy's bed? Okay. Lily, our pit bull, is extremely sweet and extremely tolerant. She doesn't mind hugs. You know, she loves interaction with the kids like that. And even then, though, I'm still careful that Kiera doesn't just start imposing on her space or bouncing on her or so on. And my border collie isn't that into kids. He could do, you know, if he were to speak, he would say, yeah, I could kind of do without toddlers running around the house. So with him most especially, I'm very, very diligent and watchful of her interactions with him and his responses. And oftentimes when they're hanging out in the house and Kiera is tempted to hug Quinlan, I tell her, no, Quinlan doesn't like hugs, but Lily likes hugs because, you know, Lily doesn't mind. So Kiera will then go and give Lily a hug. Or if I have a dog, in this case right now, Ziggy's having some hangout time with us, and Quinlan and Lily are in the backyard at the moment. There's not another dog that is appropriate for her to hug, so I just have to tell her, you know, he doesn't like hugs, and sometimes I'll say, you can give mommy hugs. So those are my notes on, you know, kids and dogs, and some quick notes on, you know, working them together. The other thing I wanted to mention in the previous video was that Ziggy's response to interaction with Kiera is interesting. The body language is actually, it's something that I'm still watching very closely. He's been here since Monday, so today is Tuesday, Wednesday, so 2 days. And whenever Kiera interacts, he also does this with the adult people as well. His ears go back, and so I'm watchful of that. The position that he gets very still. If you look back at the first video that I took, you'll see his body language. He gets really still and his ears go back. Now, that can be a submissive posture in a dog. The stiffness is questionable. And actually, in fact, sometimes when the ears go back like that, that's also a sign that there may be some nervousness. So I'm just really watchful so far with Ziggy and Kiera. This is his first time staying with us. I feel in my gut that his body language is that's just his body language. Although in general, if I were to see that reaction in a dog, kind of to get stiff like that and get the ears go back, I would pull a child away, because that is potentially a sign that the dog is going to give a correction. And so I wanted to note that in the sense of understanding dog body language, and also in the sense of that all dogs are different. And obviously this may be very likely or very possibly just Ziggy's own personal tendency and own personal body language when he greets a child or a person. But until I have more time of seeing that this is definitely not him being too stressed or him fixing to give a correction, then I'm extremely watchful of Kiera's close interaction with him, to make sure that that's not in fact what, you know, see how he in Ziggy's personality, he has a potential to be what I would deem as a little bossy. At least I've seen that with his interaction with other dogs. He's good about giving signals. He gives growls and so on. He can be possessive of toys with other dogs. So I'm watchful. I'm watchful that he, you know, that he's not going to be possessive of his toys with the people, or specifically my child. And also, because he tended to be bossy with the dogs, I want to check and see if, you know, if that carries over to humans. Oftentimes, well, I should say sometimes, the tendency for those traits to carry over from dogs to humans isn't equal. So, for example, if there's a dog that is exhibiting dog aggression, that doesn't mean necessarily that they're going to be human aggressive. However, if they're showing signs of human aggression, the level of aggression that they've shown with dogs, it might be comparable in the sense that, say, for example, if a dog's showing dog aggression and has bit another dog at some point, if it's showing signs that it could be human aggressive too, then the bite level, if it were to ever bite a person, might be the same. So in that sense, it carries over. But usually, and so far with Ziggy, actually, specifically, I have not seen a bossy tendency carry over, except for possession of something that he really cares about. I do see him get stiff and kind of stand over it. He is more accepting of me taking something away than he is of, say, my Border Collie Quinlan being near something. So he does definitely feel more comfortable to be bossy with the dogs. And then the other, let's see, I said his tendency carries over for being bossy with, or being toy possessive. Oh, and then being handled. When I go to pick him up, he gets a little bit stiff. He just hasn't developed enough, probably with me specifically, but maybe even in general, it takes him time to develop a comfort level with being handled. And so when I've gone to pick him up, he's gotten really stiff, and I'm just careful. I just reassure him. I pick him up in a very gentle way. I turn my body and his face away so that he knows it's not, you know, I'm not doing it. I'm not being aggressive in any way. I basically give him all the body language that, you know, picking him up is going to be okay, and he's been fine with it as long as I'm careful. So anyway, so two things, kids and dogs in general, and then also Ziggy's specific response to kids. It's interesting. Normally I would be very nervous to see a dog respond the way he does to Kiera, but with him I think it's just his own quirky little or personal little way that he responds to being closely interacted with. I'll come up and pet him right now before I end. See how his ears go back. His eyes, though, are very soft. Oh, as I poke him in one of his eyes. His eyes are very soft, and that's usually how he is with Kiera. I do sense a slight degree of nervousness, so I think he just needs a little bit of time, kind of knowing that she's not going to step over her bounds. I think that if she were to hug him too hard or fall on him, he might give a correction. So, again, I'm watchful of that. So I think that's it. This is a very long video. Hopefully it was helpful.